For years, stories about people converting to Catholicism have captured attention. You may have seen headlines about packed Easter vigils, or reports of growing interest in the faith among young adults. But what do the numbers actually tell us? A recent study from the Pew Research Center offers some fascinating insights into Catholic converts in the United States. And some of the findings are surprising. Let's start with a big number. According to the study, Catholic converts make up about 1.5% of all American adults. That may sound small, but when you apply that percentage to the U.S. population, the number becomes much larger. It equals roughly 4 million people. 4 million Americans have converted to Catholicism at some point in their lives. To put that into perspective, that number alone is about the same size as some entire religious denominations in the United States. In fact, the number of Catholic converts is roughly equal to the total number of Episcopalians in America. That's the significant population. Today, converts make up about 8% of all Catholics in the United States. The remaining 92% are what researchers call cradle Catholics, people who were born and raised in the Catholic faith. But there's another side to the story. The study found that Catholicism is not simply gaining members. It is also losing them. According to Pew, for every one person who converts to Catholicism, about 8.4 people leave the church. That means the number of converts is not a net gain. Instead, it is part of a much larger picture of religious movement happening across American society. Another interesting finding concerns age. Most people who change their religion do so before the age of 30. In other words, the decisions that shape a person's spiritual life often happen relatively early. So where do Catholic converts come from? The answer may not be surprising. Most of them come from Protestant backgrounds. According to the study, 59% of converts were previously Protestant. Another 9% came from other Christian traditions, including Eastern Orthodoxy and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Meanwhile, 22% reported having no religious affiliation before becoming Catholic. One of the most interesting questions researchers asked was why people converted. The most common answer was not theology. It was relationships. Nearly half of the converts said that a Catholic spouse or a desire to marry within the church played an important role in their decision. Of course, conversion is about more than joining a church. What happens afterward is equally important. And this is where the study becomes especially interesting. Researchers found that converts tend to be more active in certain religious practices than cradle Catholics. For example, 38% of converts say they attend Mass at least once a week. Among cradle Catholics, that number is 28%. Converts also reported praying daily at slightly higher rates. 56% said they pray every day, compared to 51% of cradle Catholics. The differences become even more noticeable when it comes to receiving Holy Communion. According to the study, 58% of converts receive the Eucharist every time they attend Mass. Among cradle Catholics, the figure is 34%. Confession rates were low for both groups, although converts reported going slightly more often. The study also examined political affiliation. A majority of both converts and cradle Catholics identified as Republican voters, though the percentage was somewhat higher among cradle Catholics. Perhaps the most important takeaway is this. Conversions are still happening, and they continue to happen every year. Many dioceses across the United States reported large groups entering the church during the Easter season of 2026. Each one of those numbers represents a personal story, a search for truth, a spiritual journey, or sometimes a relationship that opened the door to faith. The statistics help us understand the bigger picture. But behind every conversion is an individual person, someone who made the decision to take a new path. And despite the challenges facing religion in modern society, millions of Americans have made that choice. That is why the story of Catholic conversions remains one of the most fascinating developments in the religious landscape of the United States today.